Welcome to Silly Celebrations here on Unmasking Life. I'm your host, The Wit, and today we're going to talk about Mother's Day. There are a few words in the English language that feel as warm as the word mother. It is one of the first sounds most of us, if not all, learn to say. Doesn't that first sound, taught to an infant by vocal mimicry, almost sound the same in every language and culture, my dear viewer? It does, because it is a worldwide commonality. A word that somehow carries food, safety, patience, forgiveness, unconditional love, and an entire childhood inside two syllables is worth a silly celebration. Across cultures, continents, and centuries, the mother figure for humanity has always been something sacred. She is the one who stays awake when everyone else sleeps and snores. The one who remembers things about you that you have forgotten or never knew before your memory developed. She's the one who telepathically knows you're hungry even when you insist you are not. And for most, if not all of us, since we're being honest, the first form of love we ever experienced did not arrive with fireworks or poetry. It, however, began quietly on a sweat-soaked hospital bed, wrapped in wet sacrifice, but nonetheless started delivering non-stop. That is what motherhood is all about. So, when a day appears on the calendar dedicated to mothers, something inside us nods in agreement. Yes, that seems fair. Yes, that seems right. But if we are going to continue our exploration of silly celebrations, we must ask a question that lurks beneath the flowers and brunch reservations. Why does something as enormous as motherhood get compressed into a single day? And how did the celebration meant to honor mothers slowly transform into a global ritual of greeting cards, perfume boxes, and food takeouts? To understand that, we have to go back much further in time than modern gift shops, long before hashtags, instant messaging, and bouquets. Ancient civilizations were already celebrating mothers, and here's the timeline. In ancient Greece, between 800 and 700 BC, people honored Rhea, the mother of the gods themselves, during spring festivals around the vernal equinox. Rhea was revered as the great maternal figure who gave birth to 6 Olympian deities: Poseidon, Demeter, Hera, Hestia, Hades, and our favorite, Zeus. The Greeks, even back then, understood something deeply intuitive about motherhood regarding the nature of giving birth to new life, and how it was not just biological, but was something magically sacred. The Romans carried a similar tradition around 191 BC during Megalesia. They celebrated the mother goddess Cybele during a 6-day festival which included music, offerings, and elaborate ceremonies meant to honor fertility, protection, and maternal power. These celebrations were not casual, they were spiritual acknowledgments of something profound, the source of life itself. But those ancient festivals eventually faded as civilizations changed and religions evolved. Centuries later, another version of a mother-centered celebration appeared in England, called Mothering Sunday. In the 17th century, many young people worked far from their families as servants or apprentices. So, once a year during the 4th Sunday of Lent, they were given a day off to travel home and visit their mothers. Lent, my dear viewer, is the 40-day fasting period for the Christian faith. There were no elaborate gifts from the youngsters to their mothers. There were no massive marketing campaigns. It was just a simple idea. Go home, see your mom, and spend time with her. It was less about celebration and more about reunion. But then, in the early 20th century, the modern version of Mother's Day was born. The driving force behind it was an American woman named Anna Jarvis. In 1908, Jarvis organized a memorial for her own mother in West Virginia. Her mother had spent much of her life caring for others, organizing community work, and supporting families in need around her community. So, Anna wanted to create a national day where people would stop and honor the quiet sacrifices mothers make every day. She campaigned relentlessly. Letters were written, petitions were circulated, public events were organized, and eventually, in 1914, the United States of America officially declared Mother's Day a national holiday during the presidency of Thomas Woodrow Wilson, the 28th President of the United States, who was from neighboring Virginia. At first, the idea was simple: write your mother a letter, spend time with her, express gratitude. But something curious happened next. Florists noticed the growing demand for flowers at specific times. Card companies realized people wanted an easy way to express sentiment as well. Restaurants saw an opportunity too to profit, and within years, Mother's Day began transforming into something far larger than Anna Jarvis had intended it to ever be. Ironically, the woman who created the holiday eventually became one of its fiercest critics. Anna Jarvis was outraged by the commercialization of Mother's Day, as we are all here on Unmasking Life. She believed companies had turned a deeply personal expression of gratitude into a marketplace event. She once said that a printed greeting card meant you were too lazy to write a personal message to the woman who had done more for you than anyone else in the world. God bless your heart, Anna. Think about this for a moment now, my dear viewer. The founder of Mother's Day spent much of her later life trying to stop the reformatting of the holiday she created that resulted in profiteering. What does that tell you? History is full of strange ironies, if you are willing to study it in its full depth and breadth. And Mother's Day might be one of the most fascinating of these ironies if you objectively think about it. Because today, millions of people celebrate it around the world. The flowers are bought, the phones do ring, and restaurants fill up. Yet, above all this gray smog, the question remains: why do we compress a lifetime of gratitude into one single day? Why does appreciation often arrive with a rectangular calendar reminder the size of a pencil sharpener? Perhaps the answer is still uncomfortable, even though we have already discussed it in the Valentine's Day episode. We as human beings are forgetful with tenderness, not intentionally, more accidentally, not maliciously, but undoubtedly gradually. Life gets us busy, responsibilities pile up, messages remain unsent, words remain unspoken. So we create the ritual. We assign certain days to emotions we should probably express more often, like how Valentine's Day reminds us about romantic love, birthdays remind us about growth, and Mother's Day reminds us about eternal gratitude. And there is another question hiding underneath that we need to address right here and right now. Why do mothers often receive symbolic appreciation instead of real support? We celebrate motherhood with flowers, but the daily labor of motherhood remains largely invisible. All those sleepless nights, all that emotional laboring, all the endless mental checklists keeping households functioning and maintained with full bellies. Mothers are multifunctional, multitasking machines. Meals remembered twice or thrice daily, appointments scheduled monthly, clothes washed and sorted weekly, books packed every night, homework done each afternoon, next day lunches ziplocked every night, and an entire house cleaned before midnight. Understand it this way: civilizations depend so much on mothers, and yet the demanding sacrifice of motherhood often disappears into the framework of ordinary life like background radiation on a Geiger-Müller counter meter. Perhaps Mother's Day exists today because humanity has learned to instinctively understand this unfair imbalance. We know that mothers give more than they receive. We know that their work is rarely measured in salaries or promotions. So once a year, we try to balance the scales with flowers and kind words. It is imperfect, but it is an attempt to remember not to forget it. Another question often appears around this day in the modern world. Why do people who rarely speak to their mothers suddenly post paragraphs about them online? Beats the hell out of me, my dear viewer. Social media has transformed gratitude into performance art, and suddenly, 24 hours before Mother's Day, everybody becomes Shakespeare. Vintage photos appear, captions grow emotional. The internet begins to overflow with declarations of love directed to moms. That is okay, I guess. It is what it is. Take it with a large pinch of salt. What is concerning is that sometimes those declarations are genuine, but they dissolve into the chaos of it all and are substitutes that serve to just go with the flow, metaphorically flicking them away from authenticity like premature ejaculation. Public appreciation replacing private connection is a dangerous thing. A digital photograph replacing a live phone call is poor taste. A caption replacing a two-way conversation is unacceptable. It is easy to celebrate a mother publicly on the internet, my dear viewer, but it is harder to show up consistently over the banality during ordinary days. Why don't you do the hard thing here? Because before we become too cynical about Mother's Day, we should pause and interrupt this routine to remind each one of us of what truly matters. Motherhood is one of the most powerful relationships a person can experience. It is the most valuable. There is nothing above it. It's by blood. And even better, it is free, limitless, unconditional love. What more is there to ask for in this life? And yet, it is also one of the most easily taken for granted. A mother's presence becomes the low music score of the documentary of life. Always there, always reliable, always expected, until one day, that dreadful day, it's gone. Then suddenly, the silence is overwhelming. Perhaps that is why Mother's Day continues to survive despite its commercialization. Not because people love greeting cards, but because people should fear the monster of regret after that dreadful day. They fear the day when the phone call can no longer be made. The day when the messages they are sending cannot be delivered. The day when gratitude arrives too late. Mother's Day, for all its flowers and brunch menus, is a reminder against that regret. Do you see it now, my dear viewer? It says at least once a year, stop, pause, remember the person who held your life together before you understood what life was. Remember the voice that comforted you before you learned how to comfort yourself. Remember the hands that worked quietly in the background of your story. And perhaps that is the real meaning of this celebration. Not gifts, not advertisements, not elaborate social media tributes and plagiarized poetry. Nope to each and all together, except for the interruption. The moment where life slows down long enough for us to put into perspective the person who had been standing beside us and holding us up all along. The person who sourced you biologically and spiritually into this life. Mother's Day is not perfect, but doesn't have to be. It can feel commercial, performative, and even artificial like plastic petals. But beneath the marketing and the brunch reservations, again, lies something very truthful in its simplicity. A reminder that gratitude should not wait until it becomes impossible and out of our lively reach. A reminder that the people, specifically parents, who gave us the most often ask for the least. A reminder that love, when left unspoken for too long, eventually turns into regret. So yes, Mother's Day can feel silly because flowers will wilt, greeting cards will be thrown away, and restaurants will clear their tables and fold their chairs. But the message behind the celebration is anything but trivial. Think of it as a hidden instruction from history itself. Do not wait too long to say thank you, Mom, because motherhood is not measured in holidays, it is measured in years of invisible love. Mother's Day, if anything, is the opposite of silly, because it is quite serious. Waiting for it on a specific date to say thank you to a mother is, however, seriously silly. Do better by your dear mother, and consistently, my dear viewer. Do it more often as you can, because time, that intangible train, has no friends, and Mother's Day is a race against it. Hope you enjoyed this silly celebration of Mother's Day here today at Unmasking Life. From everybody here, we say thank you to every mother around the world, in every culture, in every religion, in every skin, eye and hair color, and in every language.
Tanki, Ame Signale, Shnurha Kalutun, Dhannobad, Spawite, Ngoi, Share, Khwala, Mamnitsak, Bedankt, Aitah, Salamat Pou, Kitos, Merci beaucoup, Ughar Merci Madluba, Viven Dank, Sasef Kharisto, Abhar, Nagode, Toda, Dhanyavad, Kusunem, Terima kasih, Grazie, Arigato gozaimashita, Dhanyavad agalu, Gamsahamnida, Asante, Achu, Terima kasih, Nanni, Dhanyavad, Tusen tak, Obrigado, Bot danvad, Mulțumesc, Spasiba, Bashtehvala, Dziękuję velmi pekne, Muchas gracias, Tak so mekke, Nanri, Chala dhanyavadalu, Kapkon, Teşekkürler, Дуже дякую, Bahat shukriya, Kamon, Eshay, Muito obrigado, Dast shoma dard nakone, Shukran jazilan.
So, thank you for your sacrifice, thank you for your efforts, and thank you for your love. I'm your host, Dawit, and Godspeed.